Well, it's a complete betrayal of the people of Zimbabwe. It's a complete betrayal of the values of the liberation struggle. Remember, the center of gravity of the liberation struggle was one man, one vote, and the capacity of every Zimbabwean, the right of every Zimbabwean to choose leaders of their choice. Now, if 280 people are now going to replace 17 million people, that's a betrayal of the liberation struggle.
Mashoko avatendai Biti vachitaura neSABC News nezuro manheru zvichitevera kusainwa kwakaitwa bill number 3 into law nemutungamiriri wenyika vaEmerson Mnangagwa nezuro. Izvi zvabva zvaisa panguva yakaoma chikwata chinotsigira vachiwenga avo vaitaura kuti vachiwenga ndivo vanofanirwa kutsiva vaEmerson Mnangagwa mugore ra2028. Pane maefforts akasiyana-siyana akaitwa nechinangwa chekuda kumisa 2030, asi zviri kuratidza kuti vaMnangagwa vakazvipiravo kugambula pamwe chete nekuenderera mberi nekutsigira 2030 yavo, iyo ichaita kuti varambe vari pachigaro beyond 2028. Izvo zviri kuchirwa nevamwe vanhu vakawanda kuti vaEmerson Mnangagwa vane chinangwa chekuunza hurumende yeumambo munyika yedu yeZimbabwe. Ndo mashoko panapa aripo. Vatendai Biti vanoti nyika ine vanhu vanosvika ivo 17 million havangasarudzirwe mutungamiriri nevanhu vanosvika ivo 280 vemudare reparamende, uye kuita uku kusiyana negwara rakaenderwa kuhondo rekuti munhu mumwe chete anofanirwa kuva akasununguka kuzvisarudzira mutungamiriri waanoda pasi pechibvumirano che-one man one vote.
Well, it's a complete betrayal of the people of Zimbabwe. It's a complete betrayal of the values of the liberation struggle. Remember, the center of gravity of the liberation struggle was one man, one vote, and the capacity of every Zimbabwean, the right of every Zimbabwean to choose leaders of their choice. Now, if 280 people are now going to replace 17 million people, that's a betrayal of the liberation struggle. The liberation struggle was fought on the basis of regular, free and fair elections. If we're not going to have 7 elections, 7 years, elections in 7 years, that's a betrayal. One of the things that we agreed in 2013, after years and years of struggle, was limited terms of office, because we had the president in the form of Robert Mugabe, who could hardly take himself to the bathroom. We had been there for years, so we put term limits, like every other country in the world, including South Africa. So this is a complete disaster and a declaration of war against our people by this government.
Initially, I seem to recall reporting that had suggested that President Mnangagwa was not keen on this idea of a constitutional amendment. But I mean, it's now water under the bridge that has now happened through various processes. It appeared as if there were many points at which there could have been an off-ramp from this path. The public participation processes that took place, the various challenges, including in court. Why could none of these mechanisms work to stop this move towards this amendment?
Basically, these African dictators, none of them ever say they want to mutilate the constitution. They always say, I'm forced, the people wanted it. And Mnangagwa has proved that he was no exception. Secondly, the process of public consultation was marred with violence, was marred with coercion. Only 67 meetings were held across the country in 67 venues. People were beaten up there in broad daylight. Harare lawyer Doug Coulthard was assaulted in broad daylight. Professor Love Momaduk was assaulted in broad daylight. I and my team have had our offices blockaded, our people beaten up, our people in prison. Students have been imprisoned. So autocracy has been the order of the day. Fascism has been the order of the day. They are refusing to take this bill to a referendum. Yet the constitution is very clear that if you want to remove term limits, you have to go to a referendum. if you want those term limits removed or to benefit you as an incumbent, you have to go to a second referendum. So the whole thing has been, dragged through by force, by the bullet, by this regime. And to compound that, you have the challenges of our people being chased away from South Africa. So it has been a very difficult period for the ordinary average Zimbabwean.
Say a bit more about that. Let's pick up on that point. Several Zimbabwean nationals returning either voluntarily or through this, process between the two countries. The last update said about 60,000. So what does this reality of this amendment mean for the stability of the country, political stability, and the sense that perhaps they are not returning to a country that is in a protracted political and governance crisis?
You yourself know Zimbabwe very well, and you know that what drove our people into the diaspora was the corruption and the mismanagement of the economy by Robert Mugabe, was violence and political persecution, particularly Gukura Hundi, 82 to 87, particularly the violence around 2008 and the runoff election involving Morgan Tsvangirai and the MDC. But South Africa, and Mbeki in particular, must accept the responsibility of the implosion of the immigration crisis and the refugee crisis in South Africa, because Mbeki, when he had an opportunity, chose stability over democracy, refused to accept Morgan Tsvangirai as the elected president in 2008, forced a dubious government of national unity, which kept ZANU-PF in power. The result is that millions of our people fled into the diaspora. Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3 means more suffering for our people. Our country has been taken over by syndicates and cartels. They are the ones that are sponsoring this bill. Looting and state capture has been taken to another level. So the people that are being forced to South Africa are entering a cauldron of corruption, of joblessness, of poverty, of inflation, of underaccumulation. So it's a double-barreled pain, which simply means that we're heading for a conflict because our people will not accept that.
How much responsibility, though, Mr. Biti, should the opposition take for the fractious nature of opposition politics, especially over the last decade or so, to the extent that some commentators would probably say that it would not have been as easy to ram through Constitution Amendment Bill number 3 had the opposition been in a stronger position, and in fact even going forward in seeking to challenge it even now after its passing?
I think that despite the physical state of the opposition, which is disarray, there is opposition to ZANU-PF and the ruling party. And the opposition consists of the millions that are jobless. Opposition consists of the millions that are wallowing in poverty. And the government knows that. That's why they are refusing to go to a referendum. If you think the opposition is weak, if you think there's no opposition in Zimbabwe, why are you not allowing free expression? I was arrested in Mutare for just having a private meeting. As Constitutional Defenders Forum, we've had over 200 meetings banned by the police. If ZANU-PF thinks there is no opposition, why don't you take this constitutional amendment to a referendum as is required by Section 328 of the Constitution? They won't do it because people of Zimbabwe will wipe them and reject it completely, as they did on the 11th of February 2000 in the first constitutional referendum that took place more than 20 years ago.
Lastly, and very briefly, Mr. Biti, what does opposing this amendment after its signing into law look like? Already, I mean, for instance, on the issue of the referendum, I understand that the Constitutional Court said, well, it can actually happen despite the absence of a referendum, and you correct me if I'm wrong. So with that having happened,
No.
What does opposition
No, the
look
Constitutional Court didn't.
It's the Supreme Court,
yeah, no, the court didn't say that. In fact, the court 2 years ago actually indicated that when you remove term limits, you actually need a referendum.
Right.
So the answer to your question is very simple. You are going to see serious multiple litigations, particularly in the Constitutional Court. You are going to see serious activities on the ground with people complaining, people demonstrating as allowed by the constitution. You're going to see serious clampdown, arrest, and so Zimbabwe enters into another phase of conflict, such as the one you saw in the last 40 years, where it's a we and them, it's a monarchian black and white situation where the government is there and the citizens are there. Right. So we are being dragged into another cycle of dispute, conflict, and attrition, which you yourself has witnessed personally when you were in Zimbabwe as a reporter.